Hey, everybody. I'm not hanging with Howie. It's hanging with us. It's everyone else. Howie has been called away tonight, probably a big, huge gig in the city. So we've had to step up and try to fill his shoes, which is not going to be easy. Luckily, John and I are here and we have kind of longish hair and we'll do our best. And I'm wearing black on purpose and, that kind of thing. But we're going to have a really good show. We're going to kind of pick up where we left off last week. Before we begin anything, though, of course, DJ Event Planner, one of our big sponsors. When the show hits YouTube, you'll see down in the comments all of our other sponsors. I want to make sure you check them out. We all use different sponsors that do this show because they're proven to do a great job with us DJs in the industry. So tonight, I'm going to go on my screen. So looking at my screen, I'm going to go to the right first on the top row because I've got the ads on my left. So next to me from Chicago, we've got Buddy. After Buddy from the great state of Maryland, one of the few CDJ guys left, and I respect that a lot. Mr. Bill over there. Going down over to my left on the next row down, we've got Matt you're from North Carolina, Matt?
Hello, South Carolina.
Okay, nobody really
cares. On that SC
then,
Georgia border.
Awesome. Yeah, nobody cares. Then we've got John from Boston, of course.
Hey.
My road dog.
Road dog. Oh, jeez.
Take a sip.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, every time Howie says, my road dog, that's a drinking game that we've established. Because there are nights that he says it like 30 times. Next to John from the beautiful state of New Hampshire, live free or die, we've got Mr. Eric there.
Hello.
We've got Mikey Mike, Lori, and JC in the background. And like I said, if you remember last week's show, we talked about how to kind of get your foot in the door at a nightclub. And I thought it would be cool to keep that kind of momentum, but how to get your foot in the door at venues, especially for weddings. It's very competitive out there. I know a lot of venues in my area have certain DJs that they really go for, but how can you kind of break through that if it's not a paid piece, if it's an actual, we recommend the best talent we can get. And, you don't want to slight a venue, but you got to kind of stand up sometimes. I've had quite a few that are like, oh, you did an awesome job. This was great. Our regular DJs don't do any of that stuff. Oh, great. Can I get on your preferred vendor list? Well, we already have like 4 DJs. Okay, well, you just told me they weren't as good. And then you got to kind of stand your ground. So I'm going to be interested to see what everyone around the country has to say. Obviously, Boston origins, but out in Southern California now. So I think we'll start by going to the Chicago area with Buddy. Buddy, what's your approach to kind of getting yourself endeared to different venues as a wedding DJ?
I just run into this past weekend venue, never been to before, to the west of us. And it's one of the things I say, it's always communications, calling the venue, talking to the venue. If you got to do a site survey, get to know the staff before the wedding, before the event you're going there. It's a corporate event, a wedding, it's a party. Get to know the people beforehand and let them know you're professional. And that way you know where to load in on, when to load in, do you need a copy of your insurance? All those things are done way in advance, weeks before. Yeah. Not just you're showing up going, what door you want me to come in on, so forth, so on. And at the end of the night, when Tracy and I were leaving and packing up, and we had one of our employees with us because we had multiple setups, our venue manager that was on duty, she turned to us and said, hey, can I get some of your cards? She goes, I talk to brides all the time. They're always asking for recommendations. And you're doing stuff a lot of DJs here don't do, kind of like you just said.
Yeah.
And she goes, everyone was talking about how you were communicating with us before the wedding. We knew everything was going on way before in advance. When you came in here, it's like we already knew who you were. And that right there was a huge, huge thing. And of course, gave her some cards, and I will follow up with a email and ask, do you want additional cards to send? But it's one of the things, building that rapport up and working with them and keeping contact with those venues that you are a preferred vendor, because people get hired and leave all the time who are, the sales reps or the managers or, whatever they call them at the venue, is making sure you're on top of that and talking to them. I actually have another venue that they're switching out catering companies, and I need to get a hold of a new catering company and talk to them and say, hey, I've been a preferred vendor here. for many years, I want to talk to you and start off on the right foot and make sure we're a partnership between us, my company, and them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Bill, your thoughts on this topic?
There's a lot of different thoughts I have, but I guess just to share one, to me, one other way to endear yourself with the venue is, after you've done an event there, or after you've done your site visit or something, or, even just when you cross paths with them at a bridal show or something, offer to do something for them. Hey, I hear you have some open house events, on a quarterly basis, or I hear you have a tasting event. I'd love to do the background music for you at that. Or, as became the case for me one time, I did the catering sales manager's wedding at a venue. Ended up from that point on being I was already on the vendor list, but from that point on, not just being on the vendor list, but being the DJ that the catering sales manager told every client, this is who DJ'd my wedding. There were 5 other DJs on that vendor list. One was my former company. I did easily twice more than all of the rest of them, in events at that venue. I also have an interesting twist with that particular bride as a bride, in that I did what I would call 9 generations of weddings after hers, meaning like I did her cousin's wedding. From that wedding, I did a bridesmaid's wedding. From that wedding, I did somebody else's wedding. And all total,
that's awesome.
in just direct referrals from starting there and moving my way through, 36 weddings.
You can't understand how much it comes back. I remember years ago doing a wedding with a coordinator who would recommend me, and everything was going great. And the moment that changed everything, I played the Daniel Merriweather, Mark Ronson. I was using CDJs. So this is pre-2010, probably 08, 09. And during dinner, I played the Stop Me cover from the Smiths by Ronson and Merriweather. And the other coordinator, who I did not know, came up to me and said, do you have cards? And I'm like, oh, yeah, Rebecca has my cards. She's like, no, I need them. I'm the wedding coordinator for a hotel here. And just like you said, about 2 years later, I ended up doing the general manager of a different hotel, same chain, because she had met with the other 4 DJs and just wasn't happy. And the coordinator was on vacation. And when she got back, she's like, oh, you should have just met with Jay. So it's, especially in the wedding industry, it's amazing how that can happen frequently. And you end up with people. I just got hired for next March, and it's the 5th wedding within the same family kind of thing. Bridesmaid, sisters, brothers, the whole thing. So yeah, you're preaching on that one, Bill, big time. Matt from, I think, Iowa. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there is an Ames, Iowa, so that works.
See?
Sure, why not?
Sure.
Book me in Ames, Iowa. It'll cost you a plane ticket.
Just Boston.
Yeah. So, since I'm from multiple states, I guess I have a couple of different thoughts here. I'll do one for each state I'm from or whatever. But no, to start with, I know that a lot of times we think of something like this, or the audience may hear us talk about this, and they might think that this all happens in one shot. And it can, but that's not always the case either. Sometimes it happens after being at a venue several times. So it can be an elongated thing, especially in our line of work, where we may go months, if not years, without working at that venue again, but somehow still building that rapport, being memorable to the venue owners. But to that regard, my other thought was, nowadays too, keep in touch with them on social media, their Facebooks or Instagrams, whatever. If they're posting regular about an event or a wedding, go over there, go shoot your congratulations to the couple or build rapport. If they're talking about, I had one locally that built a new fire pit they were really excited about. So I made sure to go and comment, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a great addition to your setup. And, just really really compliment them in a genuine way, not in a kiss up kind of way, but just be genuine with them and use the advantage of technology to stay in touch.
Well, and keep your name up, because it's like you say, I've had venues the same way. I think we all have. Just those little, even if you just like a post, all of a sudden your phone clicks and you're like, oh, this venue liked my post from a wedding somewhere else.
Yeah.
It certainly can work for you. John, what's going on in the hub of the universe?
Hub of the universe. That's certainly how you catch fire. And mine's going to kind of be based around that. I've got a hot zone that runs about an hour in any direction, north, south. I can't go much further east or I'm in the ocean. But this is kind of the emergency bubble. And what I always try to do, not only do I give my cards to the event coordinator, planner, but I make sure the bartender has one. I want somebody on the wait staff to have one in their wallet. Because if you do the great show, the event coordinator, if they keep that job and don't transfer to another place, they may call you, but the bartender is going to be there. And he's going to see if that DJ that was supposed to be here at 4:30 isn't by 5, 5:15, 5:30. I got a guy. Let's call this kid because he's close and he can get here. So, you make the impression, obviously, by putting on a great show and selling yourself. They're like, we really like what you do. If there's a preferred vendor list, you're going to have to fight and maybe be at that place a few times to make it up the ladder enough rungs. But if you can be the one that goes in an emergency on a quick call and can save the day, and I let them know that. I'm relatively close. If you ever find yourself in a situation someone isn't here that should be here, call me right away, and I'll do everything I can to either get someone here or come myself. And they're like, wow, no one's ever offered that. I'm like, yeah, it's a strange thought that you'd say, well, someone's hired to come and do the job. But how many times do we hear these horror stories where these $400 or $500 DJs, no call, no show, no contact, no contract? It's like, you should have seen it coming, but people are just oblivious to that sometimes. And, we want to be the one on the white rides in on the white horse and saves the day. That's one of the things that, like, as far as venues, not so much bars, but where there's a constant staff, like in a venue, that's one way to make sure that somebody has your name. Right.
And we see that all the time on Facebook. I mean, it's a joke that I probably get 4 or 5 phone calls a year. Are you available next Saturday? No. Why? What? Let me guess. Your DJ's is in the wind. I haven't heard from him. I've been emailing him. I'm like, I'll give you name. Let me call 4 or 5 DJs I know. And do you want me to have them reach out to you direct? Please.
Yeah.
Great. And it's a tragic thing. Before the dawn of the internet, when I would get bartending jobs back east, I made a habit. I would get hired for like 1 or 2 day shifts, and I would go right over to the time clock. Hey, everybody, my name is Jay. I live, 10 seconds away. When I lived in Saugus, I lived at the top of the hill from El Torito's. I'm available on all shifts. Here's my home phone number. Here's my schedule. Does anyone need a cover? It took 1 week, and I was working for 6 months. I had 5 shifts because 2 people were in school. Oh, I can't work my Thursday and Friday nights. Can you pick them up? Yes. Because the fear was they'd lose them otherwise. So it's the same sort of thing you're saying about with venues.
Preventatively, you prevented them from losing the shifts, and they look responsible because it's covered, and you got the benefit of it because it's.
And a bartender that can suddenly save a wedding, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a huge deal. Eric, what are we doing up there in the New Hampshire state?
Well, I've had 4 people before me, and you know how the saying goes, they took my answer. But I was able to salvage a few. Like none of us are lucky enough to be Jay, where 90% of his gigs are at the same venue.
Were. That venue closed.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. In closing, I'll mention that. I've kind of been. Yeah.
Can I have your card, Jay? I'll make sure I leave it at some places around here. You feel like making the trip.
So, yeah, I'm gonna be on an Airbus 321 anytime needed.
The rest of us have all done venues where, we've been there before. We know the routine. There are other venues where we've never been to. That happens all the time. And I always make it a point to go, obviously, before the gig, even if I'm not invited. to the what am I looking for?
Rehearsal or?
Well, yeah, the rehearsal, or I will go on my own time to, okay, this is where I'm going to be. This is, how I'm load in.
Or a walkthrough.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll
pre-screen or something.
Invited to the rehearsals,
Mm-hmm.
But most of us are, probably, most of the time, but sometimes we're not. They don't think we're needed, but that's their problem. I think we are needed during these rehearsals. But anyway, at the time of the gig, what I do is I try to put the bartender in my back pocket, by, hey, I'm DJ Eric. If it's too loud, if you think it's too loud, or, please let me know. If you're having a hard time hearing, the orders, let me know. What time do you want last call? Do you do a last call? And not only does that go a long way, but it gets me free Diet Cokes all night.
There you go.
But most importantly is to work very closely with the coordinator at these weddings. They are hired by the venue, usually. I mean, the bartenders are too, but bartenders are a dime a dozen. I think coordinators last longer than bartenders sometimes. That's my opinion, from what I've seen in the past. So you got to work very closely with the coordinators all night, and whether you agree or not, you got to agree to disagree and just make it happen. And sometimes that's very hard because we have our own system. We do things the way we do them. Now the coordinator wants to say, okay, let's cut the cake before the first dance. Because we got to get it out back that, well, how long does it take to cut the cake? Because they're going to use that for dessert. I'm like, we could still make it happen halfway through dinner, and then, do the cake. That's how I normally would do it. Get the first dance to, and anyway. But I mean, that's kind of what my tips would be to kind of get in with the venue. If you're in with the bartenders and the coordinator, I think you're doing all right.
Yeah,
especially when
I'd agree.
Time, at the night. But I would love Jay's input now. Did we get to yours?
Well, it's funny. One of the things I thought I would hear more of, because it's not something I do, but it's something I hear a lot about, and that is showing up with gifts. I keep hearing of DJs that like to go to venues. Hi, I'm DJ, Johnny John, and here's a Starbucks card, and here's some muffins, and they're whining and dining the town. Well, the problem that I have in my market is coordinators that you used to know the coordinator. Like if you said, oh, the Omni Hotel, you'd have 50 vendors that would be like, oh, Julie, I love Julie, the coordinator, because she does all the events.
Right.
Well, that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I remember a few years ago, I got in where I live, there's about 50 wineries that are about as close as 5 miles and as far as 10. So it's very, wineries hidden kind of area. And I had a coordinator hit me up and say, hey, I just took over this winery. I'm the wedding coordinator. I saw you at a wedding and you did 2 of my old roommates' weddings and they wouldn't stop raving. I had a blast. I need you on this vendor list as my preferred DJ. Perfect. Can I meet you tomorrow? I show up, call her halfway before I'm there. Can I grab you a coffee? I'm stopping at Starbucks. Oh, I'd love a caramel macchiato. Great. Bring that, buy a $20 Starbucks card, try to be, the guy on the spot. Do a walkthrough, everything looks great. Within a week, 5 weddings. Bang, 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 book, 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 book. 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. And I'm like, wow, that was weird. Like I got 5 hits right up front and then nothing. She was gone. She'd already been fired.
Oh, yeah, see?
And, you made reference to the venue. I did, and this is my tip for everyone. And it could get you in trouble, but it probably won't. And that is, if you're covering for another DJ, Don't ever hand out your card.
Oh.
Don't ever say your company, but
Right.
do the event like it's all on you. I did a wedding in the summer of 2019 for another vendor, killed it, came back 2 weeks later to do a second wedding, killed it. And the owner's like, I want you on my vendor list. I'm like, oh, great. Just call Bill, who owns the company, and ask for me. I was like, we're done. Now I'm going to get some more gigs. Perfect. And he'll get the share and I'll get my cut and everyone's happy. No, I want him off my list. I want you on exclusive. And we had to have a conversation. And I said, if you don't want me to take it, I won't. If I do take it, do you want a taste of each event? Because again, you don't want to do anything wrong in business. We had a long talk and it came down to, you'll probably do 20 weddings. Hey, 20 weddings would be great. I'm happy to do 2 weddings. Forget 20. And he goes, and I won't give the exact numbers, but I was charging about $600 more than he was. And in 2.5 years, I did 97 events. All based on somebody getting me in the door and all based on me doing the best possible job I could. Now that venue closed. Another venue that was picking up probably 10 weddings a year, that just closed last year. They had a problem with the owner being arrested for something. So they've now closed shop. And that can be an issue when it's all said and done. So my best advice for people is, if you're in with one great venue and you're crushing it, doing 2 weddings a week every week, try to get another venue to get on the list. And
Can I say something?
that sounds crazy, but yeah, please, Eric.
When you were saying, okay, we're going to use Bill as an example. Okay, yeah, call Bill and he'll get me in here. Now, let's just say Bill.
Well, because Bill sent me. I was covering for that. The whole Bill thing was I was covering for Bill.
Okay, I get that. So now he's going to call Bill and say, okay, I want Jay. Because now this goes down to trust. Like, how much do we trust Bill for him to not say, well, he's not available that night? You know what I mean?
Kind of, if they're asking for you by name,
But it's still his baby, though. It's still Bill's baby.
I talked to you guys a few weeks ago from a very swanky hotel. I had a 2-hour gig, made a ton of money. That's through a service, through a DJ company that I've now known and worked with for 22 years. The owner of that company I used to hire when I ran the boats in San Diego, and he would hire me for other gigs. And you're exactly right. It's a trust factor.
Yes.
And he has to trust that I'm not going to ruin his 20-year relationship with his big client who does tons of events.
Absolutely.
And the benefit to me is, if I do the best job I can, I now open myself up to more events. So it's a tricky situation. I'm a single owner operator for a reason, because I couldn't find enough people that I was willing to say 100% trust this guy will be there 2 hours early. I won't get a phone call.
Yep.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I broke up, man. I can't do the wedding. And I would much rather do less money and less events and sleep at night than be sitting at a wedding and have because I did that with the boats. I had 8 boats in a building. I could have 2 DJs paging me back in the 90s going, yeah, man, I'm stuck in traffic. Yeah, man, I can't make it. I think I told all of you, I became an ordained minister in 2000.
Amen.
Because on the boats, they wanted me to be a backup. Well, when I left, I've done 6 emergency weddings based on one factor. Every one of those 6, 5 of them, the pastor, officiant, minister, whoever, either didn't show up, was going to be an hour late, or decided that they couldn't make it. And then the pastor had a physical stroke halfway through.
Oh my God.
That was my way of telling clients who were anxious, get them off my back of, what if something happens to you? And I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm ordained. Just to let you know, I'll be there because I only do 1 event a day. And if anything happens at the wedding, I'm already there. I can actually marry you. And it really put people at ease. But this whole getting into venues, I think you need to just always do it. I'm glad Brian's almost not here because he hates this expression, and I love this expression. Thank you, KK Priest.
Yes.
Mr. Downing himself. You're only as good as your last gig. And I think every gig has to be approached that way. I did a wedding this past Saturday for a new venue, and the owner, when I did a wedding in April, came to me and said, "You're the only DJ I want working here." I'm like, "Great. If I'm available, I'll come work." Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a new venue, but they got me from one of my old venues who said, "This is who's done almost 100 weddings for us. He's killing it. Just hire him." And it's great. But if I wait for the phone to ring for that venue and don't try to find other venues, So I think the one other aspect that nobody really mentioned, and I'm going to mention it in passing because I already kind of did with the venues where I worked. You know what? If you've got holes in your calendar coming up, call DJ companies too. Maybe they're working venues you never work. Don't use it as a way to get over them and get in the venue, but just take advantage of the business and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm available August 3rd. It's a Saturday. Oh, dude, I'm turning weddings down. Let me send you a wedding. Okay, do you want me to do it as me, or do you want me to do it through you? If I do it through you, this is what I'd like to get paid."
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pay you that. Great. I'll do it through you. I won't bring my business cards, and at least get exposure to working other venues. Because who knows that guy doesn't go out of business a month later. You've now worked that venue. But like I said, if you work a venue for somebody else, don't ever say your name. Don't ever give your business card. Don't mention your own company. To me, that's just way shifty that you don't do. But expose yourself to different vendors. Expose yourself to different load-ins, different parking spots, all that stuff. It just makes you a better DJ when it's all said and done,
Yeah. And
Great.
I'm just going to say one thing too, if I may add
please.
something. I'm glad that we didn't hear anyone suggest the one thing that certain people in certain markets say is a way of doing business. And that's,
I know what you're going to say.
But to me, if you can't earn your way into being on a preferred vendor list through your trustworthiness, your skill, your ability, your loyalty, whatever word you want to use, if you can't earn your way there, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And that venue that I was talking about with the coordinator, at one point they approached me because they'd just been sold and a new ownership came to me and said, "We hear you're like the top DJ here. We'd really love to keep you around. We're going to start using this publishing company to create a lookbook for us." Yep.
The book.
And we want you to pay the same amount you would be paying to advertise in any other major bridal publication. But we're only going to be giving it out to 1,000 people as opposed to 100,000 or 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, you'll be the exclusive Maryland-based DJ. I'm like, well, what do you mean Maryland-based? Well, we have 3 national companies that we also refer. In other words, booking agencies, which I immediately know means they've got national, accounts with that publisher, and I'm never going to see the light of day of that video again.
Nope.
So
I've run into that a few times, and they give you the famous phone call of like, "Hey, you could take out the entire back page. It's only like $1,000." And I'm like, "So where's this going again?"
Mm-hmm.
Just to our clients. I'm like, "But aren't you already sending your clients a preferred vendor list?" We are, but now we're going to be using this weddings of whatever book, but we're not paying for the book, so we don't care because we're the venue. But the publisher is charging all the vendors to put out the book.
Yeah.
So the venue looks at it as this huge win. And I could probably point to 10 DJs I know who have lost huge accounts because of just that. And they mentioned, by the way, we're also recommending 1-800, any state, any price, any level DJ company to come in on this booklet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they do. If you're getting $300 or $400 to DJ a wedding that's charging $1,000, you've got plenty of money to advertise everywhere and anywhere. And it's like when I used to do a lot of bridal shows, you'd show up and it'd be like, oh, there's 2 DJs, there's 1 DJ. Why is there 16 people in that booth? Why are they all hyped up at 9 o'clock in the morning? Like, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and you realize, oh, and you know what? Clients, that's a whole nother show, but clients need to be comfortable and trust who they're getting. Mm-hmm. And I think with all of us, it's always been, if you meet me and you like me and you hire me, you get me. A year from now, I'm the one showing up. I'm not sending Jimmy, my assistant, and, Sally, this other person that I just met who's a DJ that I'm going to try her out at your wedding. So I almost think, and I'll give all of you, including everyone watching this, a quick hit. I used to work with 5 DJs in San Diego, and we called ourselves the best DJ for you. And the logic of it was there's no such thing as the best DJ, just the best DJ for you. And we had a little punch sheet that we would give to venues that we all were preferred at. And it simply said, all single owner operator, all $1 million liability insurance, all over 10, 12, 15, 20 years experience, all award winning from The Knot, Bridal Insider, Wedding Wire, blah, 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 whatever it was. And we just had this punch list that we could put on a desk and go, if I'm booked and I know you recommend me, I want you to know these are the other 4 guys I'm going to recommend. Oh, I've heard of all of them. Great. So now you can still recommend me, but if I can't make the event, I want you to know I'm giving it to the owner of a company and letting them do the contract. It's their insurance, the whole 9 yards. So there's no kind of trickery. And it still goes a long way. I talk to a lot of venues where I've never worked before, and I'll show up and say, you don't need a COI here? What's that? Well, a certificate of insurance, kind of just to prove I have insurance, get your name on it or whatever. No, we didn't ask if you guys have insurance. I'm like, really? Like if I knock my speaker over into your wall, it's on you, not me, right? Mm-hmm. But we would just sue. What are you going to sue? You carry insurance? I'm like, yeah. I said, any credible DJ will. So I'm guessing 99% of us that work here do, but it's an education thing with the venues sometimes too, letting them know. You get a very young, inexperienced person in management in any position. I think they welcome the knowledge that we bring to the table as, hey, the wedding I did Saturday, not showing off, the ceremony cocktail system was a DDJ 1000 SRT. 40 feet away from it was an XDJ XZ. They were both running simultaneously. And I probably had 10 people say, I just took up an iPad and plug it into the speaker. You can do that. But I know that if the XZ goes down, I'm 40 feet away from an incomplete system that I can pick up, put down, and I'm in business.
Yep.
So again, we all bring that to the table and let venues know, hey, you know what? Just for what it's worth, something as simple as I don't drink at my events. I don't drink before or during my events. I always bring 2 full systems just to make sure I've got my backup. It's educating not only customers, but also vendors and coordinators that they can make a better decision when they recommend a DJ to a client. This has been great, guys. I really appreciate the information. Of course, when this airs on YouTube, underneath in the comments, we do check the comments. So please, any advice, information, we are all here to learn. None of us knows everything, especially me. I can learn from everyone that's watching this and everyone that's in the room. So I really appreciate everyone sticking around for the show tonight. Howie will be back probably tomorrow when I will shoot with Howie and Brian on our Tuesday night music show. And I expect Howie will be here next Monday with bells on for Hanging with Howie. For Eric, John, Matt, Lori, thanks for hanging out. Mikey, JC, Buddy, and Bill, I'm Jay. Again, check out DJ Event Planner and all of our sponsors. And until we see you again, have great events. Stay well, stay safe, everybody.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
Road Dog.
Road Dog, yeah. Road Dog. Sorry.
I'm going to have to go get a road dog.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Everybody take care. Have a good one. And